Yep. All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for part 4 of our 6-part series on sustainability. Our Echo Park Historic Filipino Town Sustainable Program, Environmental Stewardship Program, and so far it's been an amazing journey for all of us. We started off with talking about the big picture vision. We had someone talk about the bigger Green New Deal plan for Los Angeles, followed by a discussion on biodiversity, which we have a project. We haven't fully finalized the name, but it's going to be the Los Angeles Urban Wildlife Corridor that we will be establishing here at the local library, a little corner that we can show concepts of sustainability and making it more tangible and more real for everyone. And followed by an event that focuses on climate. And now we're here to really make it happen because to move us away from the fossil fuel civilization of the 20th century to a cleaner, greener civilization. For the 21st century, we need to change our infrastructure. And we have laws already that were passed and signed that will help us get there, but it is up to us, the people, the different stakeholders, to make it happen and to make it real and to make that even closer to reality. We have our architects that are pioneering this new phase of humanity. And I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Ethel. And I will have her introduce herself and start off her program, her presentation. And after that, our stewards, our fellows, we call them environmental stewards, will have the first chance to provide a feedback and questions after the presentation. So Ethel, please just pass the sound first to make sure we're okay. And
Yes.
Can
you hear me okay? I mean, from the group online,
The Zoom folks.
Richard, can you give us some feedback,
like thumbs up.
or someone can chat?
Audio's sounding good from my end.
Audio is good. All right, perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. I am so excited to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. Hello and good afternoon. My name is Ethel Rubio. I am a credentialed and vision sustainability professional and a member of the Institute of Sustainable Infrastructure, ISI for short. I train professionals and college and grad level students to acquire and maintain their ENVSP credentials as a vision trainer. I am a proud charter member of the ISI SOE task force that helped develop the Sustain or Explain Toolkit, a reference for advocacy, communication, and outreach on envision sustainability and sustainable infrastructure awareness as a whole. My background, I received my Bachelor of Architecture degree from the University of Southern California. Prior to that, I studied architecture at the University of the Philippines before emigrating to the US in 1986. I have over 30 years of multidisciplinary career experience in project management and strategic development, focusing on sustainable and resilient solutions. I established my project management and construction management and strategic development consulting in 2017. I am a past president of the Association for Women in Architecture and served on the board of directors for the American Institute of Architects Los Angeles chapter and the Association American Architects and Engineers Foundation. I am also a member of the Construction Management Association of America. My greatest personal achievement, I just have to share this. I birthed and nurtured a smart, compassionate, and creative human being, my daughter, who received a double degree from Stanford University last year. She is now a thriving product designer for a startup company. And might I add, she received her graduate degree in sustainability as well. Before we dive into the presentation, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Friends of Echo Park Library for organizing this incredible program and speaker series. I would like to give a shout out to the sponsor of this event, the Rotary Club of Historic Filipino Town, for having me speak to this afternoon. And of course, James, thank you for the invitation. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for spending your early Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, actually, like where am I with time, with me. I'm still in a morning mode. All right, okay, cool. So I'm sharing, but it's frozen. So, okay, let's see. There you go. And that's me. So overview. So let's get started. Sustainable infrastructure is a vast topic to undertake. We can go deep and technical, but we have to spend at least 2 days to make this happen. We usually preach in echo chambers in the profession. So I'm so delighted to be able to share the topic on sustainable infrastructure with all of you. Because we have a diverse audience today, I will cover the following, so we are on the same page. We will define infrastructure and sustainability, sustainable infrastructure. What is the global initiative for sustainable infrastructure? I will share about the Envision framework as a metric to measure achievement of sustainability in infrastructure and how it came to be. I will showcase sustainable infrastructure projects here in Los Angeles that are Envision certified. And if we have time, I'm going to show a video clip how everything come together. Hopefully, we will not get technical difficulties on that one. And lastly, I will outline some action items that we can all do to contribute to building future infrastructure that is sustainable and resilient. So going to slide number 2. So infrastructure definition and sustainability, I just picked it out from the Oxford language on Google, and it says infrastructure is defined as the basic physical and organizational structures and facilities like buildings, roads, power supplies needed for the operation of a society or enterprise. It is the social and economic infrastructure of a country. I would also like to add that, when we talk about society, it's about being part of a state, a county, city, a district, and also local communities. How about sustainability? Very short. Oxford Languages define as sustainability as the ability to maintain at a certain rate or level. Since its inception in 1972, the United Nations Environment Program, aka UNEP, has been the global authority that sets the environmental agenda, promotes the coherent implementation of the environmental dimension of sustainable development within the UN system. And I'm not sure if you talked about this in previous topics, and serves as an authoritative advocate for the global environment. According to the UN, sustainable infrastructure systems are those that are planned, designed, constructed, operated, and decommissioned in a manner that ensures economic, financial, social, environmental, including climate resilience, and institutional sustainability over the entire infrastructure life cycle. Sustainable infrastructure can include built-in infrastructure, natural infrastructure, or the hybrid both. I guess you're familiar with this because it's in the flyer. But what I'd like to say about this is for some of you who are not familiar with this, in 2015, the United Nations set out 17 sustainable development goals and was adopted by all 193 nations, member states, including the US and of course the Philippines too. I'll mention that. The 17 goals provide a blueprint for eliminating extreme poverty, reducing inequality, rehabilitating our natural environment, ensuring access to justice, improving well-being, and building a global partnership needed for sustainable development. And it has to be achieved by the year 2030. So when they started this, it was 2015, so they just gave themselves 15 years to make this happen. And out of those 17 goals, they actually broke it down to 169 targets so that they are, smart, like they enumerated and that you can identify how you can achieve that. Next. So out of those 17, number 9 is the sustainability development goal, which also includes industry and innovation. But out of the 17, how many do you think are really related to infrastructure? Anybody in the audience here? Well, guess all, right? Because if you look at all of those, I mean, to achieve poverty, you need infrastructure to take care of that and all the way. So we were able to, make sure that that's happening. Okay, so addressing global challenges is also one of them. Of course, that's why there was a call to action, right? And infrastructure plays a role in all of the government top administration priorities, and they include climate change, resilience, equity and social justice, environmental protection and biodiversity, and public health, and also economic recovery. And guess what? What's the bottom line for this? Infrastructure plays a role. Let's think about it. Even Biden passed $1 trillion in bills to cover infrastructure, right? So with that in mind, how do we measure this? How can we know that we are successful in building a sustainable infrastructure? And so one of the things that I actually have for you today is sharing about Envision. Well, SDGs are designed to help governments understand the global priorities to achieve the sustainable development agenda. Individual infrastructure projects connect to the SDGs at a more granular level. The SDG targets set aspirations that nations are striving towards, but success will be measured at outcomes of actions over time. Given the complexity and trade-offs inherent to sustainable development, strong methodologies, best practices, or lessons learned. Envision helps project teams approach the SDGs in a systematic fashion. As a multifaceted tool, it promotes creative and critical thinking throughout the project delivery process and can be used to measure and document progress toward the real outcomes. So this is how Envision came about. They established the Institute for Sustainable Infrastructure, and it's a nonprofit education, was founded in 2010 by 3 organizations. And it's a hub, a unique hub right now of 270 AEC company partners, 190 government departments and agencies, 50 academic institution associations, and 65 active credentialed professionals. And we are talking about worldwide. So as you can see, it's not enough. With the infrastructure that's coming out, there's really a need to have more, right? So accountability is one of the goals for government spending, and governments at all levels will want to demonstrate their accomplishment. Envision was developed to meet the infrastructure needs of today, a blueprint for better infrastructure, enabling a thorough examination of the sustainability and resiliency of infrastructure projects, providing a practical guidance on how to improve performance and driving better project enrichment. Envision covers all types of sites and sizes of infrastructure. So if you can see on the screen, we cover it from energy, water, waste, transportation, and landscape and information. And so it's not just about bridges and roads, it's about all of this that's on the board. Envision was designed as a holistic framework to apply all types and sizes of civil infrastructure. And you said earlier, architects, it's actually the engineers who pioneered this program. So I just want to make sure that we acknowledge the civil engineers on this one. This includes the roads, bridges, pipelines, railways, airports, dams, levees, landfills, water treatment systems, and other components that make up our civil work. Most available sustainability rating for infrastructure for sector specific and regional based. For example, there are ratings specific to buildings, marine infrastructure, roads, airports, etc. And there are ratings in use by a city or state. When Envision was being developed, there was no comprehensive system in North America that covers all aspects of infrastructure. Envision is not intended to supplant existing sector-specific infrastructure rating systems. It's intended to provide the essential context for their rating results. The rating system for buildings is gaining in popularity, but there aren't applicable or transferable for infrastructure projects. Much of the focus of this system is in the comfort and health of the building occupants, but most infrastructure does not have occupants. And this is an example of the 64 sustainability resilient indicators, which we call credits. And so basically each of those credits, with quality of life, leadership, resource allocation, natural world, and climate and resiliency are the 5 credit areas. The components of the Envision framework include a guidance manual, project self-assessment tool, professional learning and credentialing, project verification, and awards recognition based on the percent of applicable points achieved. So how does UN and SDG and Envision connect? As mentioned earlier, SDG has 169 indicators, right? In a paper presented by Cristina Contreras in 2019 at the International Conference of Sustainable Infrastructure, out of the 169 targets in which the 17 SDGs are divided, 67 of them were identified to be in alignment with the Envision rating system. Of the 67 related SDG targets, 34 were identified as having a direct alignment with Envision, while 33 were determined as having an indirect correlation. Out of, and like what I said, there's 67 of them. Okay. This one shows graphically where we are in Envision project verification worldwide. So far, we have 314. And then in the US alone, we already have 255. And that's as of March 31, 2023. Out of those, we already basically measured $141.6 billion worth of infrastructure. And what we are aiming trillion, right? So there's more to go. Okay. Since 2014, like taking it back to where we are in Los Angeles, and I don't know how many are not who are on Zoom that's not from LA, but I want to just bring this context locally. Out of the since 2014, we have 14 sustainable infrastructures that have been awarded Envision rating. So from being verified only, silver, gold, platinum, those are the levels. So are you familiar with the USPDC credentialing also? They have like gold, it's similar, but now this one is in infrastructure. And I'd like to share with you the LA projects that we have. And they actually garnered quite good credentials, so awards. And so the Sixth Street Viaduct Seismic Improvement Project, do you guys know about that? I think it's gonna open in July, right? So when you go down on 101, I believe, you're gonna cross it, but it's like there, it's the Sixth Street. You're familiar with that one? It's so beautiful, right? And it's Envision Platinum in 2022 was awarded to them. How about the LAX Automated People Mover?
Good.
APM.
Yeah.
Yes. So they actually got awarded Envision Gold. So that's pretty exciting, but it's not open yet, right?
Not yet.
No. Yeah.
Still in construction.
Yes, exactly. And then last one I'd like to share is the Terminal Island water reclamation plant. And this was way out all the way in 2018. So what, almost 5 years ago, right? And they did Envision Platinum. So Envision application. So all of this that's on here, these icons, actually represent where Envision can be applied. Regulations, say for example, in Canada, climate lens, all federal funded infrastructure must conduct a climate change resilience assessment. Approve methodologies, assess climate change, risk and resilience consistent with ISO 31000, including Envision. Another example, proposed bill, I don't know if you're familiar with SB 44 in 2021. It's a streamlined judicial review for environmental transit projects that meet sustainability goals. The public agency demonstrates how it has incorporated sustained infrastructure practices, and one of the blurb there says, the Envision rating system of the Institute for Sustainable Infrastructure is cited along with ASCE policies and standards. And a resolution, so in county commissioner level, they actually did it in Miami-Dade board. You mentioned something that was already approved in LA. I'm still like researching on those wording, but I know LA Public Works is very supportive of this one as well. And of course, you can get funding, right? Grant funding or cost share with state and agencies to incentivize the construction of those sustainable infrastructure. So a sustainable infrastructure edge. Here are some of the advantages of sustainable infrastructure, meeting or anticipating client needs, building a portfolio of high performance, high value projects, attracting and retaining talent, especially young professionals, building a corporate culture, quality, integrity, collaboration, developing the skills, experience, and service offerings for the future, growing a competitive advantage, especially with federal spending, increasing attractiveness to investors and clients, and of course, contribute to the achievement of SDG for the world. So we're almost there. So what can we do? What is our action item? I always want to like come out every time I speak to to people, like, what is our next step? It's not just preaching, right? What can you do? So there's a 1970s environmentalist coined that think globally and act locally. Remember that, right? And reach out to your community, city, district, county, and state representatives and be advocates for change. As you know, we have here a newly oath taken commissioner, James Gayaga. So you can reach out to him to also have those, make sure that the district is, right, like especially you're in the planning, right, planning commission. So we have to talk more about that. And then also help build awareness. So all of you, now that you know about this, isn't it easy to learn about it? I mean, like, it's really top level. We don't have to do like very technical stuff on here. And I identify opportunities. So with innovation there, right? I mean, there's so many opportunities for jobs. for being a small business and bringing this to government agencies to be part of that $1 trillion investment. That would, we want to make sure even our Filipino community shouldn't be, taken out of that picture. So I'd like to share a video, but I don't know if that's gonna work. I have to go out.
So you might have to share that.
Unshare this one, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so let me just finish everything so that everything is, I'll just, before I go back and forth, so. Citation and references, here's the list of references that I have, but I would like to let you know that I can share the slide deck to everybody, if you guys want to do that, to all the attendees. And then I'll add more references that they can, also follow on. So I will be sharing that, and lastly, thank you so much for allowing me to present this to you. I hope that you found this very informative. Sustainable art infrastructure affects all of us. I have said earlier, this is only an overview. If you are interested to learn more, please contact me. I love connecting on LinkedIn. So if we're not connected on LinkedIn, please connect with me. My friends here know that they love LinkedIn connection. So thank you so much. And with that, I'm gonna try to play the video. So let me stop this one. Thank you so much for having me again. And for those who joined online via Zoom, I greatly appreciate you being part of this afternoon's presentation. And thank you for allowing me to share this information with you.
All right, thank you so much, Ethel, for a wonderful presentation. And now the part that I really love is the interaction.
Yes.
When people ask questions and amazing things happen. So as I mentioned early in the program, we will start with our two stewards, Richard and Serby. Now is the time for you guys to ask, or well, actually first share your feedback and then ask a question as well.
Question.
All right, question from Richard.
How do you differentiate envision versus LEV?
Oh, that's a very good question. I'm glad that you asked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's repeat the question.
Sure, I'll repeat the question. How do you differentiate envision versus LED?
So that's a very good question. I think I mentioned earlier the USGBC rating system. LED is actually limited or encompasses the vertical envelope. And so it takes care of the, like the materials of the building and all that stuff. And so the one for Envision, it's more of the horizontal, the structure. Yeah, although, like the treatment plant, that's also vertical, right? But there's something within those detail of creating a treatment plant that's very scientific and technical that can, really, it's not really covered for LEED because LEED basically is about, making the building good for the occupant.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that question.
Also, Ethel, we all heard about AI and how that's supposedly displacing workers and jobs. But actually, it's actually creating, anyway, it's creating new jobs, which people just have to be trained to do. So I turn to you about our sustainability and architecture and infrastructure
And engineers.
and engineering or greening of our society. Can you just share like what are the new jobs that it's creating or producing or as a result of our adapting to becoming a more sustainable society?
Yeah, so that's a very good question because I'm gonna harken back to the to the screen that I shared about the different infrastructures, right? And let me go ahead and pull out so we can all refresh our memory because we're talking about renewable energies, right? We're talking about like having driverless AI cars, right, operated by AI cars, and then how do you make the roads more efficient for those? So there's a lot about construction, it's a lot of construction jobs. And for me, being in the construction industry also, we basically need a lot of people, like new and young blood to go through the pipeline so that they can learn about the industry and really help in building those infrastructures. So in terms of innovation and industry, I mean, there's just a lot of job potential. And as also like a big part of this infrastructure, sustainable infrastructure is collaboration. So we're not, we cannot be just working in a silo. US being US, kind of like tend to like just reach out to each other, but reach out to the other countries. I mean, what makes them have a successful, sustainable infrastructure versus what we're not doing right now, right? So a lot of those conversation actually is basically made possible because of the UN initiative, the 17 SDG goals.
So I actually have something to share specific to that question by our new Honorable Commissioner Jaime Aguiaga. So recently, I took on a new job with an architecture firm. When I went through the interview process, I was introduced to this whole BIM concept because my background is in IT. And then when I looked at this whole BIM thing, what is this, in preparation for my second interview? It just blew my mind because what BIM is, well, there's like, I think 3 definitions of it, but the idea is it's a way, it's like technology, IT and architecture combined. And I'm part of CODES, which is spearheaded by the United Nations Environment Program. CODES is a coalition of folks all over the world whose aim is to use digital technology to assist us in achieving the 17 goals. And as with any tool, AI is a tool. And right now, some technology is hurting the sustainability agenda, and there are those that also assist, right? So just with anything, a tool is a tool, and it is up to the user. It is up to us to use it effectively to achieve our goals. And I actually help the Codes Coalition, spearheaded by UNEP, to put together the action plan.
Fantastic.
The action plan, it's called the Action Plan for a Sustainable Planet in the Digital Age. And I made sure that, you know, community societies that are vulnerable, like the Philippines, you know, have a voice as we create these policies, and the plan has like 3 shifts: aligning of values, making sure our technology doesn't hurt, and then innovation towards the future.
Exactly, and that's part of SDG number 9, about innovation. And I'm glad that you mentioned about BIM, because that's actually building information modeling. That's the what the acronym stands for, and like you with what James is also saying is that that's AI technology that you, because it's like virtual reality, they say VR. There's a whole there's a whole conversation around that, definitely, so that that you can learn more about it. But thank you for that question.
And to transform our cities into smarter cities, you know, we need to adopt standards, and part of, and for some to echo about Jeremy Rifkin's book and his ideas on the 3rd industrial revolution. For us to transform our cities, you know, and there were experiments in Canada, but you know, it's still a big conversation, but the internet, which made this event possible right now, took over 50 years, and a lot of people come in and leave and contribute until it is here now and transform the world. For architecture, it will take some time too for us to transform our world to be more smarter. We can share, you know, basically right now we have this top-down infrastructure like in electricity. So we have a lot of renewable sources, but they're all over the place and it's not connected. So how do we connect everything? So it'll be up to us to design our cities to be able to share clean energy with each other. I know we have a long way to go, but you know, it's a tool, and tools can be job opportunities for folks, and we can create a win-win situation, like what they said, triple bottom line of people, profit, and planet.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think we need to talk about renewable energy, another topic. So we're talking about the infrastructure altogether in a very high, you know, top baseline, but top line. But I think you mentioned something about what is the industry, where is the industry right now? I actually attended a USC research symposium a couple of weeks ago, and they did talk about, you know, what is the current situation of technology, how it's helping design, build more resilient buildings, right? And so I'm just like floored about the examples that they shared that's in the industry, you know, where Infosys is doing it, you know, all other architecture firms are doing it, but also the students are so into the you know, technology in actually sharing how their design concept help with sustainable and, you know, sustainability and resiliency.
Yeah, a clear example of this is, you know, how do we build, how do we transform our buildings to be energy generators as well? You know, and
Yeah, so we have, yeah, so definitely, there's so much.
storage
So much,
and
yeah.
generation.
Yeah.
So now is the time for us to transform our world, and we need leaders, young leaders. Now about young leaders, Serbia, are you ready? Or Richard?
Yes, I'm ready. I can go.
Go ahead. So provide, you know, kind of like your what you got from Ethel's presentation, thoughts and questions. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's something which is very much related to my presentation. So thank you so much for that. I just have one question. So when we talk about sustainable infrastructure, I know that's a lot more going on. It's just a word sustainable, but yeah, there's a lot more things which would be going on. But how would we deal for a project which is smart, sustainable? That is a small project because small projects generally don't have too much funding. Which could be then have like innovation, which we talked about. And I guess because the traditional way is not to take care of the earth while we are investing into infrastructure. But now when we are going forward and having resilience program when we talk about infrastructure. So how are the small projects being dealt in this space?
I'm glad that you asked that because there's no project is small, and I guess I'm sharing again the screen that I shared earlier, the file that I shared earlier. So on this one, like I said, there's no small project. I mean, like even creating a natural resilient park, that it could be big or small, right? All these things that's listed on here, and I will be giving this to you. There's always a metric to allow for us to examine it and make sure that they actually get the rating that they need to have through Envision in those projects. So with this one, there's also the 64, let's see, the 64 sustainability resilience indicators. So those one delve into the, so it's not really cost that's driven by getting a rating to make sure that your project is sustainable. So it doesn't matter if it's a small project or large. Does that help, Survi?
Yeah. Maybe if you can just give out an example where budget was constrained, but yet maybe throughout your career where you have been like encountered by a project where budget was restricted, yet there was a great amount of environmental and the social indicators which were being matched.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think we need to make a note of that because I can definitely do a research on that further. And I'll share that when I send out the presentations I get.
Survey, you can reach out to Ethel Lee. She's now officially one of our mentors, like Jaime and Jocelyn.
Oh, yeah,
and
you still.
Susana.
Oh, okay.
Out to Ethel,
Yeah.
if you have more questions and,
Sorry.
that will,
I would love to share more. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
I would love to share
Definitely.
more.
And then
Definitely.
also, before we go to Richard, I hope you're ready.
Yes, I am.
Oh, perfect. I'd also like to share that part of the thing that Codes is working on is, the world is waiting to, or getting ready for the new, they call it Summit of the Future. I think it's happening next year. And so.
Is it next year already? Wow.
2024. So Summit of the Future is kind of like a reaffirming of the global goals that we as humanity share with each other. And so, between now until the Summit of the Future, all these things that we're doing individually and as a collective, we want to be part of that global agenda, because like in the Philippines, there's something we call the Bayanihan spirit. All of us live the house together. And the global goals and the global challenges that we have today cannot be solved by a single institution.
Exactly, and I think that's what UN is all about, right? Collaborating. I think that's one of their main things that they really emphasize on is collaboration. And I think I mentioned earlier that we can't exist in a silo. Everybody should be working together. But what I wanted to share with you is on the slide deck that I'll be sharing. I actually have a link to it's called SDG Tracker. So it actually tracks for each of those sustainability goals where we are right now globally. So that will be great information to have. And I think because we have a very, like what I said earlier, diverse audience, not everybody is, tuned in to all these details. So I'll give you some references that you can have so that you can track it yourself. And now that you're familiar with it, like you can basically also say like, hey, how come we're not doing this in LA or something? So that's one of the things. Also, like I said earlier, I am part of the Sustain Explain Toolkit, SOE Task Force, which we created an advocacy toolkit for everybody, not just engineers and architects, that you can use. It's a tool that you can use to reach out to your congresspeople, to your planners, to your city, to the mayor and all that stuff. So that you can be more informed on how to share it. So these are just all the tools that we have, so that you can track it yourself. So, infrastructure, like my bottom line is that sustainable infrastructure is not just for the professional, all of us are stakeholders on this. So I mean, even you don't know any, like highfalutin lingo about sustainable infrastructure, right? I mean, like you can be part of it because, it's about creating change. And in order to create change, you have to have a group of people to start it, right? I mean, like, and guess what? These projects are actually funded by government and, some of the private-public partnership, that's another lingo that, I can also add to the, to the language definition. But, I mean, the government has a lot of money, right? I mean, like, how can you get a piece of that? I mean, like, that's, when you think about it, I want to acknowledge Theodora here because she's also part of the metro, ecosystem. We're trying to get something, and metro is actually a component of investing in sustainable infrastructure. So they're a very big example, and that's how we collaborate. We actually participate in that discussion. How can small businesses we have access to those projects, right? I mean, it's accessibility. That's a question of accessibility, and that's the bottom line. And for all of us who are not, like, expert in this thing, I mean, you can still do something.
Yes, and so we have someone from Metro?
No, we're both small businesses, and we are actually advocating to get projects from it.
Okay, all right, awesome. So
Are we gonna be going around?
yes, we will, we have.
Oh, but
We have
is-
we're good, yes, it is Richard's turn now, but before I hand it off to Richard, I would just like to share that, for folks out there that are feeling depressed about the whole, global problems, climate change and everything else, there is hope because in 2000, we did the same thing, for the Millennium Development Goals, and that was just 8 goals. And that achieved a lot actually in the fields of health and education. I'm from the Philippines and I know that, there has been a lot of progress in as far as increasing literacy and health, improving health, even in the countryside. So, other aspects may not have improved as much, but, the beauty with these goals is that everyone can jump in. Scientists, filmmakers, commissioners and business people and architects. We need everyone to be on board and especially the young folks. So Richard, it is now your turn.
Hi, yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So first things first, Manang Ethel, thank you so much for your presentation as a fellow environmental engineer, and also recently transitioning to a designer for LA County Sanitation District, working with sewer designs. This is actually really good new information for me. I like my father in the audience, which right now mentioned about LEED, which I'm familiar with. Envision is something that this is new information for me, and I'm really interested in taking my time to research more about this one. And at the same time too, I also want to mention before I get to my question, my parents told me that you are a fellow ISCA of UP, University of Philippines.
Yes, I am.
Same goes to my parents in the audience right there.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, so going to my question / issues I want to mention in relation to Envision, as you've are familiar, LA, SoCal, or even California in general has had historically an issue with in increasing amount of drought that we have, and at the same time too, as of recently, we've had it wasn't until recently this year that we haven't had any good amount of rain coming into the SoCal region until like a month or two ago. And even though SoCal LA has water retention systems to be able to capture this storm water, the problem is the given rain that we had earlier this year was too much for our current infrastructure to handle. And so my question to you for this one, and I'm also going to bounce off Roya in the comment section, who has the same idea as I have. Has there been any recent projects or future projects that Envision has been assessing recently to how to say this one, address our water retention issues, aka has there been any projects on revamping our water retention system or adding new infrastructure to accommodate more stormwater system in the future? And if not, how can we or bring light to this situation? And is there any information on any infrastructure design to save rain and stormwater to prevent any runoffs?
Yes, that is a very good question. And I actually I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but just to start off, all our infrastructure right now are outdated, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that can't be, we can state that as a fact. I mean, look what happened in, New Orleans, right? I mean, the levee. I mean, that could have been prevented if somebody had stepped in there and like assessed it and like, like, I think the most, assess it and like prevent that flooding, right? Because of the breakage of the levee. But what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is right now, people are doing, in the government, working with, private sectors to build them. They're working incrementally, and like I said earlier, I can actually offline give examples of that one to share with you, but definitely there needs to be more conversation and I think awareness for a lot more people. If more people talk about it, I think that would be more effective than just being like, hey, here we are. This is what we know that we can do for you. This is good for you. It has to also come from us, right, from the bottom. Also, well, not really from the bottom, from the community at large. So awareness is one thing, right? And then getting yourself be knowledgeable on other projects just outside of Los Angeles itself. Because I think that if you know projects that are being worked on currently in other cities, countries, or whatever, why can't we apply that here? So I think it's a matter of just learning all of them, right? And then to answer your question and your interest on the Envision, I can definitely connect with you. You need to be an Envision credentialed person, Richard. As part of this, I think the takeaway is that if the stewardship program can afford it, maybe that can be part of their final thing.
This is this is a pilot project,
Nice.
and so the idea is to, well, actually, instead of using the grant that we got for like a 1-day event,
Yeah,
extended it to like a 6-month series.
nice.
For the amount that we got, and so we're making it like really go a long way. And Richard and Serby, Ethel will be a wonderful resource to brainstorm on an actual project that you guys want to implement before the program ends in June. And also talking about projects, I was on the phone yesterday with Michelle.
Hold on.
No, not yet, not yet. I'm not there yet. Michelle, from the LA Sanitation Department. And Michelle is part of the Healthy Soil Initiative and Biodiversity Research. And I was telling her about our little project here, our little urban wildlife corner in the library. And the idea is to really transform our landscape. And that is a small piece of land that could be an example of how can we retain more of the runoff, more of the water that comes in. And And so, that is a little project right there, how do we do it? So you guys can think of a way to kind of like. Connect the dots, with our little urban wildlife corridor, very tiny. Into a demonstration site of how do we transform LA? Well, here, if we could transform this tiny piece of land
Exactly.
by transforming the soil. Then maybe we could scale it up and other folks could, adopt it. And there's plenty of land around LA.
Yeah.
So that is a challenge to you guys and thank you, Survey and Richard for participating now.
May I just add one more thing? Okay, before we open up the question to the audience in general. I just wanted to let you know, we have a new mayor that brought in new people. And I think trying to get to know who the people who can make things happen inside the city is a great way to get started too. So I actually reached out to Randall Winston, who's a deputy mayor for infrastructure. And I'm trying to actually get to have a meeting with him, sit down and like say, hey, where is LA right now in terms of infrastructure development? And I know that there's a Green New Deal that was created by Mayor Garcetti, and I know that Mayor Karen, former Mayor Garcetti and now new Mayor Karen Bass is going to implement as well. So I think that's a good sign, right? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel because there's already there. So I think that's really a very good thing to know that our government is not there to just take care of their own selfish needs, but to actually build up from the past and learn from there. So that's my final comment on that. Are we gonna answer questions on the?
Carol will be first. Let me spotlight Carol, and Carol, you are on. Unmute yourself, Carol. There we
Hi.
go. Now we can
I
hear you.
appreciate this discussion so much because I've been into sustainability probably my entire life and I'm 85 now. So I've been in it since I was 30. And I've lived in eco villages and, I've lived the well-being lifestyle. I've been a body worker for years, etc. So my focus is really on permaculture, permanent agriculture, land, the earth, people, fair share are the three pillars of permaculture. So I'm living in Sebastopol right now, and housing is becoming a really big issue around here. And not only that, the whole equity issue is becoming really big and looking to the indigenous farmers for solutions around food. So my question is, I've been thinking about this for a long time about developers and creating a food system, building a food system right into their development. And I think the food is going to be one of our big issues pretty quick here. Yeah. And the thing is, we don't know when the system's going down, but the UN said that they are having trouble because of the rising prices with feeding people around the world. And they're going to hit a big snafu very quickly. So my focus is really on where I live, the neighborhood I live in, how I can bring those neighbors together, how we can do an assessment of what food's already being grown here. We have an understanding of what foods we need to grow to sustain ourselves. So I'm interested in where you see connections around these kinds of issues. And also in terms of young people, what is the most, if you were to advise a young person, what is the most pressing area of undeveloped areas of education right now that people need to focus on?
Thank you so much, Carol, for your question and sharing us your very significant background in all this. I appreciate you. The main thing that, let me answer first the young people question. And really, like I brought in a mentee here today She's a senior at UCLA and don't know anything about sustainability, so I hope you got a lot of it from this discussion. But I think just like what you said, it's exposing people, right? I mean, like, we need more of us, like, I cannot be just like doing all the talking. I mean, like, you know, I share this with you. You'll have the slide deck. I mean, you can have informal discussions about it, and just to make them aware about the, you know, just to even share about the 17 SDG. And mind you, the #1 goal is what? No hunger, right? Eradicate poverty. And that's really, like, it's a world goal because of population. I mean, so that means you need to, relating back to my presentation, how can you build an infrastructure that will actually sustain an agriculture so that it can feed all the people? I mean, you mentioned something already about creating urban parks with vegetation so that you can harvest your own food in your neighborhood. And I think we've seen some examples already of that. We have one here in LA and, you know, like several of them in New York, and I know who knows where else, but I think creating those pockets to start with, if you're in an urban area, and teaching them, I mean, you're a very good resource to have for those. So I think that, you know, just start your own movement, right? I mean, we can't be waiting for each other to start a movement, like what the bottom line is, don't wait for other people to do it for you. I mean, if you have knowledge, do it yourself.
We have an older population in this neighborhood. So, and farming in California is not easy. If every single person says to me, I'm getting so tired of the gophers and so tired of this and so tired of that. But I think if we had a plan of how we could sustain ourselves with the food system and looked at how each person could participate at whatever level they're on, and how we can bring other younger people in to help support that infrastructure, that might be a possibility. And it started organically here by caring for one person that had a knee operation. And all of a sudden, 20 people in the neighborhood were cooking meals for them. So let's go to the next step and look at, can we bring that food right out of our own neighborhood?
Yeah, that's right. I think it's possible. I think there's a lot of possibility of that.
Real possibility, next month, I'm hoping you guys will join because the focus is on food and
There you
water.
go. We can go more about
Next month, we'll be focused on that, and we're still finalizing our resource speaker, but definitely, you know, that is an important component. And I've been a big advocate of healthy soils, because when I understood that there's a difference between soil and dirt, everything just kind of connected to me. This happened not too long ago. And that's why I talked to Michelle from LA Sanitation. And so she gave me a lot of ideas. And Jaime will present his drip irrigation component of our tiny LA urban wildlife corridor.
Wonderful.
But I wanted to document that piece of land, part of the parking lot, to have a way to show that this is how we transform our world by, like, as a symbol, a symbolic change. So Michelle suggested that we could send it to a lab, I think $50 to have it analyzed. So I think we can cover that in the budget. So next month, you know, we'll dig pieces of dirt, put it in canisters, maybe 5 sets, and we can send one to the lab. And then we keep the rest. And then hopefully, once we have a wildlife corridor up and running for several years, you know, every year we keep track of it, you know, and how much improvement we've added to the soil. And so, yes, that is an
That's
important
great.
part.
So when is this gonna be? We're planning
Next month, part 5,
Awesome.
last Saturday of May.
Thank
That's
you.
Memorial Weekend holiday, so I'm hoping if you guys, you know, are available to join us. But it is a very important topic, so it, you know, it has its own month dedicated to it. So
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that one.
Thank you.
We're doing something in terms of time management. I just want to make sure, can we alternate, like asking the group here and then going back and forth or being active?
Okay, so let's,
Anybody
have
in the
someone
audience?
to also introduce yourself, so we
Yes.
know who we have. Well, why don't we just do that right now? You know,
Yeah.
just a quick round of introductions for folks in here. And as well as if you have something to ask or share.
Where do you want to start?
We can start with Trade Commissioner Eric Elmar.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Eric Gilmer from the Philippine Consulate General.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm David Rockello, the president of the Echo Park Library Friends.
Thank you.
I'm putting on this event right here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hand them off to my wonderful wife, who's a volunteer coordinator for the book sale every third Saturday of the month.
Nice.
I'm Belinda Rocano and I'm a member of Echo Friends of the Park Library and in charge of the book sale. Yeah, and supporting the community different activities.
Oh, and by the way, if you're introducing yourself, if you have questions, go ahead and ask. That's best to ask questions if you have questions. So thank you. It's a pleasure.
Hello, I'm Darlene. Like Ms. Ethel said, I'm her mentee that she brought to learn more about sustainability. I'm a student at UCLA and thank you for inviting me. I learned so much about sustainability and I really like what you said, James, about using digital technology to like learn about problems and how we can solve them. Because right now I'm in a digital humanities class and like we're doing the same thing. So I like learning it from like sustainability.
Right, perfect. So yes,
Thank you for that comment.
yes, digital technology will play a key role in getting us to where we need to go.
Definitely. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Margie Balsey and I got invited by Echo. We've been communicating through LinkedIn and I'm excited to learn more about sustainability because I've been in the AEC industry for more than 17 years. So it doesn't look like it, but I wear many hats, but I enjoyed the good information and good conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Hi, good
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jailo Hernandez. I just moved to LA very recently. I have an architecture background and Ethel and I were classmates decades ago. So
Don't give away your age.
decades ago. No, yeah, so yeah, this topic's really, very interesting, definitely. Yeah, in Manila, we've been experiencing really very hot temperatures and it's getting intense every year. So I think we all have our responsibility to do our part in whatever little way we can. So we start with, learning about how we can do it in our own homes and then slowly join our communities as well. Because I think that's how we will be able to gather, to at least diminish or to slow down, the damage that climate change and is doing to our communities, to our cities, to our country. So so questions in a while. I wasn't able to.
Jay, you want to share also, because earlier we talked about LEED and you are a
Yes.
credentialed professional.
Yes, so, okay, LEED is really, it's really more focused on how a building,
Yeah.
a structure, right, can be designed to be able to, move more sustainable. So, as well, they do have some overlaps, but really focuses on the interior environment. So, in the same way, the objective is to how to make our buildings more livable, healthier, and of course sustainable as well. So there are overlaps. So it was very useful, for buildings to be assessed if they meet the WELL standards, during the pandemic. So, but then again, as I said, there are how we call this standards as well to make it more to make the building healthier and more sustainable. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Richard Taguba. I'm with the City of Los Angeles, Department of Public Works. I'm with the Bureau of Contract Administration. And you've shown those sustainability buildings, infrastructures that we have, which is the 6th Street Bridge
Yeah.
and the LA People Mover. We are the group of inspectors that made sure that these are on the top level platinum award for the 6th Street Bridge and the whole.
So we picked the right projects to share, right?
Inspectors, we follow the spectral plans built by the architect, designed by the engineers, and make sure that we've got the best infrastructure, not only in the city, but in the whole world, okay? So we're the second largest city in the US, and I'm glad to be part of the sustainability vision of the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Margot Taguba. I am also with the public sector and work with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. Richard is our firstborn. He's actually an environmental engineer, as he mentioned. But the other thing that we're not only interested in this series, but we are just because Richard is there, but because we are residents of a Filipino town. So we want to support that endeavor here. Very interesting topic, Ethel, very far from what I do in public health, but as far as I know, the structural sustainability and digitalization played a very important role during the rollout of vaccination because it was very, very hot. Even the transport of COVID vaccines during the height of the pandemic was one of the concerns. And we have to make do of what we have. But as months pass and vaccines have improved, even the small structures that have to vaccinate the public have to be learned so that we protect the vaccines that have to be given to the people. Otherwise, they would just be thrown away. So that's why digital innovations have helped in the efficiencies of delivering healthcare as well. So
Thank you for sharing that.
because when I was, listening to you, it's not just about having a structure, a big structure whether horizontal or vertical, but at the same time, how does this translate to the single person who will be receiving all these processes and structures? So even, like to the use of our bathroom or to the use of our own homes, it contributes to, how can this topic be palatable to me as a regular consumer? So you translated that.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. Also, I wanted to follow up on that. Peers and shipping freights,
Yeah.
they're part of the infrastructure ecosystem. And I'm so glad that the Port of LA and Port of Long Beach actually they have projects that will upgrade their infrastructure. So because I'm in the construction industry, I'm kind of like in that world of learning more about it. And so, like what you said, I just have to mention that because when it gets to the person, they only see like, oh,
Yeah,
it's made in China. But
like how Pfizer had to adjust the commercial planes, right? Because they were not properly insulated. So
Yeah.
Pfizer compared to Moderna, they had to be transported by plane.
That's
Pfizer
infrastructure.
was like by land. I mean, Moderna was by land, but Pfizer had to be by plane. But can you imagine? I'm not saying like in the Philippines. I was always thinking, how did they transport those vaccines, and did they just arrive there as water because of the change in temperature? Something like that. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Theodore Amoy, and I'm very happy to be here. I was invited by Ethel. I work in the construction industry, and I'm here in the capacity of a neighbor, a resident, and this is very exciting for me and very heartening to see that this kind of community engagement, is what, like somebody else mentioned, each community needs to, do so that collectively all of us are doing our parts to transform our region and of course our world.
Thank
So
you.
keep up the great work and thank you for sharing the knowledge. Because a lot of folks, Ethel, you're in a position to, again, don't know a lot. You're in many rooms that a lot of us here are not in. And the fact that you're sharing the information that you're getting is a tremendous, tremendous blessing to all of us, that which we can all share. So please keep sharing, because that's a tremendous example to others. Because some people get the information and they just sit on it, So the fact that you're sharing this information with us and bringing us along, so we can then effectively contribute towards these lofty goals that everybody's talking about, but not really explaining how these goals can be achieved. So you actually, by creating a forum like this, these kinds of opportunities, you're creating the platforms, the actual boots on the ground that would make things happen. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. A big thanks to the group that actually provided us a platform for this one. But Theodore, thank you for that feedback. One of the main things that I actually set out to do when I got my Envision credential was like, how can you really translate this to somebody who doesn't have an understanding of it? And it's simple. I mean, like for me, because I have an architecture background, construction background, it's always about how can other people learn about this. And earlier I mentioned that people in the industry talk among ourselves and we understand it, but then we understand it, right, Richard? And then but then how can you explain that to somebody who's not in the industry? And so I think this forum really helped us to break that, being echo chambers for each other, right? Thank you.
All right, and before we go to Jaime to introduce himself and do this presentation on drip irrigation, I'd just like to share.
Oh, are we gonna have a quick intro on the Zoom also? Or
Yes,
do we have
yes, we'll go back to Zoom. Well, we'll do Jaime first, and Zoom, and then Jaime can do the drip irrigation.
I have one last question for Ethel.
Okay,
If you want to close that. So I'd like you to comment on, I guess, the inequity of developing countries and developed countries, and how in fact our all hands on deck sustainability train involves everybody, including developing countries. I ask that question because I guess developing countries doesn't have to go through its industrial revolution. It could go directly to the sustainability revolution. Is that correct? So
Yeah.
I'd like you to just comment on that, because this is really everybody around the world.
Yes, I would love
regardless
to
of
comment that.
where you live. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question.
Great question.
Very good question, because the United Nations SDGs were originally created for the third world countries, to those who are not in that level of being able to provide, food, water in there. I mean, they were made for that. I mean, I'm gonna share you the link when I send the PowerPoint presentation, but I'll give you a link on. There's a chart that says like how many of the countries that are not in the same, they're not there yet. I mean, all of them are from rural, poor countries. But the ones that, of course, US, Canada, all the first world countries are the ones on poor, almost green, like there's color coding on that one. So yeah, the focus of the UN is to make this world equal place for everybody to afford housing, to be able to not go hungry, right? And all this, access. It's about access, right? Access to the basic needs. Like we're talking about just access to basic needs, and a lot of the countries who are experiencing not having that actually are the focus of the United Nations. And recently, I just want to share. I actually spoke with on a recent symposium that I attended. Like I just attended a lot of it. It's with the LA Economic Development group, and I met somebody from South Africa. The country that he's in I'm sorry, I forgot the name, but they're part of the UN, and I told her he's the ambassador. And when I had that conversation, was like, let's talk, like, I want to talk to you about how we can make this happen for my country, you know, things like that. I mean, like, having something like a forum all the time to be part of it, I think opens up more doors. And I think the more you talk about it and inform others, that's how you get to solve the crisis. And yeah, I mean, like, so I think it's helpful for us to know those indicators and how they're being reached right now, for other countries. And, you know, of course, the main focus is collaboration, right? Like I said, don't talk just within your country, talk to other countries. That permits everybody being in the same page, those 193 countries, being on the same page to reach the 17 goals by 2030. And there's a lot of helping each other. And I think that global projects, that's why there's a lot of global projects happening now too. So I know, Eric, we have infrastructure projects in the Philippines that's being helped by US, right? Yeah, like roads, bridges. I mean, that's happening. So, and in rural, can you identify that there's someone that are access from the rural areas?
Well, I think the US helped through agencies like USAID, and then you know, the UN, of course, also have projects. Maybe we have a project as well on this. So as you said, it's all hands on deck. And I think it's also a way for developed countries to help developing countries get to their level, in terms of, like in golf, right, with handicapping. So the developed countries had the benefit of developing using maybe dirtier, like fossil fuels, right? And as now we're trying to catch up, but we don't have that benefit, or we don't have that cheap kind of fuel or cheap kind of technology to propel us to that level. Although, you know, it can also be said that all of this digital infrastructure, all of this, all of the new just like AI, and all of this could help, you know, leapfrog, not needing to go through all of this. So I think we just have to be open-minded on all of this, and we have to do our share. Like even at our levels, we can do our own share. Like if you're building a house now, maybe you could consider, you know, building something that is more ecologically, like using the wisdom of our ancestors. I'm sorry if I'm taking some time now, but I just want to share that like our ancestors before, like the way they built houses before in the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
So there's no bottom level, right? Everything was raised up because we expect floods every now and then because of the monsoon season.
Where the chickens are the teeth and
Yeah, so and then we have, you know, high ceilings, we have big windows for ventilation, right?
Yeah.
So all of this we tend to forget, or we tend to, you know, go with newer trends, newer models which are not exactly adaptable to us. So maybe we can learn from all of those, you know, the previous knowledge that we had, and, you know, do our own share in, you know, in little ways. So for me, and then thank you for bringing down this high level goals to our level, to the man on the street level, where we could understand it more, and we could say that, you know, this is just a direction that all of us would want to go to, but in getting there, we can do our own, and we can do, you know, our own way. So individually, or as countries, as, you know, like developed countries would probably have another way of doing or going to this phase, and developing countries would have to go through it in another way. But I think with this common direction that we're going to, and as long as we, you know, do our share, I guess we could achieve it one day,
Yeah.
sooner,
We,
hopefully.
we definitely will, codes is committed to making sure that we're building that knowledge base, of humanity. And I am hopeful, but also I am very passionate about what you just brought up. I grew up in the Philippines and I had this impression that the Western world, America, was always the best, right? But I've always questioned that. It kind of didn't seem right. And then now I'm here in the US and I've learned and explored. And Carol, if she's still here, she mentioned permaculture and the idea of, the principles of permaculture. And that reminds me of what we already understand as Filipinos. That you need to work with nature. And somehow there's just a disconnect. And I think we need to be really something that we can contribute to the Western nations. For example, agriculture. The Banali Rice Terraces, and I'm hoping we can have a guest speaker share some of his insights, but the Banali Rice Terraces, terracing, it's kind of an example of how do you build more sustainable agriculture, prevent soil erosion. And so it's like, why don't we value that?
Because the architects here in LA only understand what they've been taught.
Exactly.
And they're
Yeah,
not following
exactly.
what instinct.
I want to actually add some dimension of understanding of that too. I attended a climate change forum early this year with AIA. And the speakers talk about like, this is how we're gonna do it, to make it more sustainable and whatnot. And I was just thinking, well, how do you talk to somebody from Guatemala or Philippines on how they actually build sustainable things? And like, all they can provide is what is actually what they learn from their schools and stuff. And they think that they're doing innovation, but I say, I don't think that's new. I mean, like, if you talk to other countries, I think you learn. And thank you so much, Eric, for bringing that up, because yeah, you're right. I mean, like, sometimes we just need to think about how our grandfathers have done it and survived the nature, living off nature and without being primitive about it. I mean, like, we have nice houses over there and like, the infrastructure around that also is there. So you're right. I mean, mentioning that, like, we have to talk to our neighboring countries and other countries, and we can't just like pretend that we know it all, right? Like here in America.
We have the perfect area in historic Filipino town for terraces like rice terraces. And the architects in the city, just wanted to make it look like with the planting. And
Yeah.
They just wanted to make it seem like it was that. But if you actually did it properly, it could be sustainable. And we would use less watering the hillside.
So learning from other countries. I think that's the whole focus on having the UN SDG. To be able, that's kind of like the platform to create that dialogue among countries.
It's a big challenge to change the way we think as a species. But, we're making progress. I'm so glad that there is a big movements as far as changing the way the world thinks. It's not just this Western is the best kind of thing now. It's like, how can we really come together and think as a species? And the image on the poster is an image of Earth from the moon. There is no America or the Philippines. There is just us. And so with that, let's get one speaker from the audience, and then we'll go to Honorable Commissioner Jaime and to talk about something really specific, moving away from wasteful irrigation system to a more sustainable irrigation system. And he had actually implemented it, and so he's very qualified to talk about it and use it for our wildlife corridor project.
Yeah.
So who can, let's see, yes, can go to the latest. Um, Someone wants to just jump in from the audience? Unmute yourself.
Some people have jumped out already, but there's a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Maybe
you
I
probably
can-
can
yeah.
answer one.
Right, and then perhaps we can also, I can share some of the answers.
Yeah, so we are
How are we
getting
doing on that?
close.
Yeah.
We're getting close. We want to give enough time for Commissioner Jaime to give his presentation.
Okay, then, question from Judith. She asked, what can individuals do to make sure that cities are building sustainably? So as I guess advocacy is a big part of that, right? I mean, I shared that earlier. Being an advocate and learning who to talk to, learn the key players that you need to talk to. Like what I said earlier, I just met, deputy mayor online through LinkedIn, and I would like to have a conversation with him on this one. Because I think it's important to have more people know about it. So hopefully that answers your question, Judith. And then there's another question, how does the institute relate to county sustainability projects and resources? Actually, if you're talking about which institute, the ISI, I think that sustainability projects that we have, the LA County Public Works
show up as
is a big part of.
Yes,
of
the same thing.
of
Let's switch the camera to
So,
this.
trying to just reiterate that people can actually learn more about it later, and I can give some more information on that. Do you want to have?
We'll have Jaime.
Do you want to have my speak?
Yes. All right, Jaime, time for your brief introduction and then our irrigation component for our wildlife corridor.
Okay. Okay, thank you, everybody. So this drip system, so we're transitioning from global issues, topics to a very, very specific item or topic of the watering drip system and how to save water. I've used this system for about 20 plus years. And so I have it in my garden. It's been there for 20 plus years. So what I'm going to do is share a video by the corporation that produces this. It's DIG, and it's about a 20-minute video. And I think this is very, very good information and structured. And you probably, hopefully, will do it yourself. It's a do-it-yourself project. So without further ado, I'm going to share a screen.
And irrigation is part of infrastructure.
Got it?
Yeah. Share. If it's okay.
Hello, my name is Greg Smith. I'm the National Sales Manager for DIG Corporation. Today we're going to do a drip irrigation product overview. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through these parts. We're actually going to build a setup using
All these parts and pieces, I'll discuss and show you the benefits and features of each part. And when I'm done, this piece will be fully built. And when you build this in your product knowledge class, you'll be able to take this home and actually try it out and see how all the parts and pieces work. In every store, we have this free drip irrigation book that's available for the consumers and the store associates to use.
It's not.
This has all the information that the customers need to build their system, how to use different parts and pieces that are needed to do it. The layouts, has a variety of layouts in the book.
There you go. Oh,
So it's this one, right?
That show the different layouts that can be used. Now, one thing that's important to know is drip irrigation can be used to water any plant in your yard, but it's not good for turf or grass. It doesn't provide enough water fast enough to do turf or grass, but anything else in your yard can be effectively watered with drip irrigation. Also, this book, all of our parts and pieces that are arranged in your store by color and number, that's on purpose. So that's a merchandising system that allows the customer to easily find the parts and pieces in the store by taking this book home. So all of these parts and pieces have a home on the shelf by color and number, and it follows the same order that this book is in. So the customer can take this book home, find what they're looking for, and easily come back to the store and get what they need. So the first thing we're going to do is, with drip irrigation, you need a water source. For this application, what we're going to build today is coming off of a hose bib, which is where your garden hose connects in your yard. It's all hose thread. All drip irrigation, all of our products don't require clamps, glue, fittings. It's all hand tight. It either just snaps together or connects in with a compression fit. It's very simple to use. The only tools that you need is a hole punch like this and a scissor or knife to cut the tubing. So it's very simple. Drip irrigation is intended to be used above ground for simplicity to access the water to get to your plants. Most of the products are black in color. That is the UV inhibitor to prevent the sun from breaking down the plastic. So you need a water source. So we're going to start off with a hose bib. And at the hose bib, we recommend that you use a Y valve like this. This allows you to have a drip irrigation setup coming off your hose bib, and then you also have a hose running off the other side, so you can still supplement water, wash your car, rinse your driveway, whatever, and the other side would be for the drip irrigation. So to hook this up, it's very simple. Drip irrigation is the slow output of water. All of this, like I said, runs in gallons per hour output, and all the pieces and products are designed to run at 25 pounds pressure. Household pressure normally is 45 to 75 pounds, which is way too high for all the products to work. So you need a pressure regulator. This is a pressure regulator. It's simple. It just screws right onto your faucet. And this reduces any incoming pressure down to 25 pounds. This screws onto your hose bib. And then what you do is you have an adapter. This is an adapter that then screws onto the hose bib. We will do that in a second. But also this has a filter inside. Since all the components for drip irrigation are small orifices, small diameter output, they can easily clog by sediment, sand, any debris that could be in your line. Municipal water isn't a problem, but there's a lot of places around the country and around the world that use lakes and river and ponds and wells that you could get sand, sediment, you can get other debris in your line, so you need some sort of filter. This adapter has a simple screen filter that is a 60 mesh stainless steel screen. This is adequate enough to filter the water, so it prevents any clogging down line. We recommend as an upgrade to use a filter like this. If you've got a large system or you may have contamination in your water or sand or whatever, we recommend a filter like this. And the advantage to this is, whereas this one was only 60 mesh, this is now 155 mesh, which is much finer, has a much larger surface capacity. And you can also spoon fertilizer into this, so every time you run your system, you're automatically fertilizing when you're watering. This goes at the very beginning of your system to filter any of the water that comes through all the components. So that's an upgrade. So to get started with the assembly of these parts, this goes on your hose bib. This is the hose pressure regulator. This just screws on. It's just hand tight. All right. And this is your main supply line of tubing. This is a 700 OD dimension tubing. This is black poly tubing. This is 95 to 97% of what's used in the industry, both commercial, ag, and retail use. This is a nominal size of 1/2-inch poly tube. The one most important thing about a drip irrigation setup is the output capacity of this tube. This has a 220 gallon output capacity. And it's important to remember because as you're taking water out into your yard, you don't want to outspend that 220 because all the components will then be starved for water. So you want to have a little math involved to build your system. And as we get through some of the parts and pieces, I'll explain how that math works. So to connect this, it's very simple. Like I said, this is a compression fitting. This goes on the outside of this tubing. All you do is simply press this in and walk it on slowly. And to test to see if it's connected, if you can't pull it apart, that's connected. So now what you've got is a regulator, you got an adapter with a filter, and then you have this poly tubing that runs out into your yard and takes water to all your plants. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go through a variety of emitters and drippers.
Yeah.
And like I said, the only tool that's needed is a hole punch. So I'm going to punch a couple holes into this tube.
I'll do it in a couple more minutes.
And these first couple of holes, we're going to insert a family of drippers called flag drippers. Has a little flag on the top. These are very economical. It has a sharp end that goes into the tube. These are also cleanable. So if they happen to clog, you can pull off this flag, rinse it out, and put it back together. These are, like I said, the most economical, usually bags of 25 or more. And all this does is snap into this hole. Now I have to start with this color coding. All of our products have a color code, which is the output of each of the components. This is black, which represents 1 gallon per hour line. So to maximize your capacity of this tubing, you use the lowest flow capacity that you can get away with and just run your system longer to get enough water to the plants. If you got new plants, you can use 1 dripper per plant. Larger, more established plants, you can use multiple drippers at each plant. But once again, you got to kind of add all this up. So these are the flag drippers, these are the button drippers. These button drippers can also be taken apart to clean. And the step up from the flag dripper is these have larger passages inside. This is a labyrinth and the pressure compensating. Now what we're going to do is we're going to insert a valve. And this valve would be used if you have a part of your yard that you want to regulate the flow or turn off the flow. For example, you may have this running down into your yard watering regular plants. You may want to with an output of water. That adjustable dripper also comes as a button. Same situation to where it is adjustable up to 10 gallons output down to the main line, but you may want to run the small tubing out from this out to your plant away from your main line as an artery. All right, your system out. Okay, so that's, you push it on. And also hot water, if you have a situation where it's cold outside and it's hot water will also help soften this tubing so it's easy to put these fittings on. This particular fitting has hose thread on the end that can be used to extend off into other directions if you want to, or if you want to drain your system in the wintertime or after harvest, you can just take this cap off and drain your system out. Okay. So that's how that particular product is used. Now to finish this setup, we're going to add another little section at the very end. Okay. Once again, if you can't pull it apart, it's connected. Now in this particular situation, whereas you have this cap on the end of this, this is a very simple end closure that's called a figure 8. It looks like an 8, and all this does is slip over the end, and you fold this back to kink it, and this tube holds it in place. So now
So that's really to give you an overview of the drip system. It's really, anybody could do this. As you could see, there's a lot of the dripper points that you could attach. And there's only 2 tubings you have to work with. That's the 1/2 inch, which is the main supply of water. And then you have the 1/4 inch where you punch a hole, you connect it to the supply tubing, and then you put it to the plant that you want to water. So this is very targeted, where you have the traditional spray it irrigates all the soil there, and it encourages for weeds to grow. This way, the water is going exactly directly to the plant. It saves water. You can put a timer where you attach it, and you could program the timer to do it every day for 10 minutes or every other day. So anyway, I hope this was useful. Go to DIG. This is the one producer or maker of this drip system that I've used. You can get it at any home improvement store like Home Depot, Lowe's. They all carry it. The others. So that's it. I hope that helped.
Introduce yourself.
Okay.
briefly, And then we could pass it on back to Ethel to close our event.
Yes, my name is Jaime Giaga. I'm a member of the board of Friends of Echo Park Library. I'm the treasurer. And I'm also the chair of the Carlos Bulusan Book Club, a project of Friends of Echo Park. Friends of Echo Park has 3 projects right now. The first one was the Philippine Heritage Collection. And I invite all of you that are here to make sure after our session here to visit our collection. The second project is we have a book sale every 3rd Saturday of the month. The third project is the Carlos Bulusan Book Club, which I started and still chair in 2017. Our 4th major project is our sustainability project, as James has been inferring earlier. And we actually are doing a garden outside, which we call Urban Willy Hala. Willy Hala stands for Wildlife Habitat LA. So, and just newly elected commissioner for the Central Area Planning Commission. Thank you.
All right, congratulations, Jaime, on your appointment. And now let's begin your final remarks and close off the event.
Wonderful. I just wanted to thank everybody again for being here, being part of the conversation. I only shared how it can work for all of us, and I'm glad to hear your input. So that also made me much more knowledgeable now because I heard from you also. So let's keep on doing this. I'll be sharing this information. I am eager to follow up on people who would like to know more about Envision, how to get credentialed, because I do that workshop myself. So then that's going to be one of the things that I can share and impart to you. But most of all, I appreciate you being part of this and making your Saturday afternoon, spending your Saturday afternoon with me, with all those who are here and also on Zoom. So thank you so much to everybody.
All right, thank you everyone for participating, and stay tuned for part 5 next month. We talk about food and water, and then part 6, which is kind of like taking action. And we have a Hollywood actor that will be presenting, and he's also a bicycle advocate, but the goal is to provide alternative cleaner modes of transportation, and that is Taylor Nichols. And so hopefully you mark your calendars for those the last two parts of this series. And with that, thank you all, and hope to see you again soon. Bye.